Welcome to this episode or this video that I'm making for this podcast. And today the discussion is about this book, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. You'll have noticed through the two books we've gone through up to now, I'll tend to bring, at least at this early stage, books that I genuinely personally love, because at least that's why I started doing these videos anyway. So you know, as we go on, I'll probably have a lot more compilations, a lot more books that are very different in terms of the style and where they go. So it might be a little bit boring to start with, but bear with me. Let's go through what I have for you. As I promised last week or last time, this book, the 360-degree leader, is going to be one of the two I discuss next. Most likely to change things up a bit. I won't bring another Maxwell book right after. I'll start with this one, which I like. It's called The Future of the Professions, and I'm really trying to get a hold of the person that recommended this book to me, so that we potentially will have me talk about the book, but then I could have a conversation with that person. So let's see. Fingers crossed, we'll be able to get that person to come on. This book, by the way, was given to me by my boss when I started working quite a few years ago, and I'm trying to see if he can also make it for a conversation that I'll be able to bring here. So that might bring some of the principles, some of the conversations here that I'm having with you to life. It might be a little bit boring just to have me talk. So, as I said, why this book? It came to me, as I said, because I was looking for some kind of philosophy. I was starting out in life, went up to my boss and I said, look, I don't know where to start. I have people that I am interacting with. I have people that I'm working with, and I want to know what's the best way to handle some of these conversations I have with them, some of the difficult conversations I have with them. I had to influence in the organization. I was starting out in learning at that point. It was a very tiny organization, but growing very, very fast. Today it's probably one of the largest organizations in my country, but it was certainly something that I really thought would help me to have some kind of philosophy. He handed me the book, and here we are, many moons later, and I'm talking about the book. I'm going to zhuzh up my analysis a little bit in terms of how I go about this. So just as a starting point, I looked at this book and I looked at the 21 laws, like I did with the 15 laws of growth. I'm not going to go through every law. I'm not going to discuss. In fact, in this one, I hardly will talk about the individual laws. Suffice to say, I will sort of refer to what they mean, how important they are. I think what will make more sense is make it easier for you to actually enjoy the book, or at least if you decide to go and buy the book or read the book after I've done the analysis, at least to have some perspective of what to find in there. So I found that there are potentially three categories in terms of the number of in terms of how you categorize the laws. So the first category is the character of leadership. So most of these laws, or a number of these laws, talk about the character of leadership. What is leadership? What does leadership look like? What is the character of that leadership? What are the things to look for in order for you to say this is leadership or this is not leadership? The second element or category is how leadership is about connecting with people. I had to go look at my notes again. I was beginning to think, what did I write there? So how leadership is about connecting with people. And the third one is the picture of success for leadership. So just to go over them again, the character of leadership, how leadership is about connecting with people. The third one is the picture of success for leadership. Now, when you go through the laws themselves, I've picked 3 laws roughly. I think 3 for each category and maybe 4 for the last one. In the first one, I've picked the law of the lead. The second one is the law of influence. The third one is the law of process. So in the first category that talks about the character of leadership, I am saying the law of the lead, the law of influence, and the law of process really make it very easy for you to see what is that character of leadership. In the second category, it is the law of solid ground, the law of influence, and the law of the buy-in. These then make the second category, which is how leadership is about connecting with people. And then finally, when you look at the picture of success for leadership, again, here we're talking about the law of victory, the law of priorities, the law of timing, and I think the law of legacy. Those four. Now, as I said, I'm not going to go through each of the laws, but I think what comes out very clearly when you look at these laws of leadership is that they probably come with, I suppose, four things that I want to highlight to make it very easy for you to understand the book. The first one is the laws can be learned, right? I think John Maxwell comes at leadership by saying either not laws, I love this law, either leaders are born or leaders are made. By putting out the laws and organizing them in the way that he has done, he suggests that laws can be learned and therefore leaders can be made, right? Which is a philosophy that I've adopted over the years, and I sincerely believe that leaders can be made. The second element, or the second point I want to make is the laws can stand alone. So you can study the law of influence or the law of the lead on its own, and you would understand it and you could live on it, and it makes sense on its own. You don't necessarily have to apply all these laws together with the other 20 laws of leadership for it to work. Of course, it's better that you apply the full philosophy rather than just the one, but it makes it possible for you to apply just the one law. The third law is the law, or the third element is the laws carry consequences with them. In other words, if you do not apply the laws, if you don't learn of the laws or to live with the laws, there are consequences for that. Now, if somebody says there's a consequence for not following something, as most people will start to think, oh my God, it means that I'm going to face some calamity. Something big is going to fail, and then I'll find myself in a bit of a huge loss. And maybe what I'm trying to express here is that this loss would be immediate. That's not what I mean, and it's important for that to be understood. When I say the laws carry consequences, let's talk about, for instance, the law of the lead. The law of the lead says there's a level of leadership effectiveness, right? If, as a leader, as an example, I was at level 3 of effect, let's assume there were 8 levels, right? If I was at level 3 and my organization was at level 3, we would be a match, right? I would probably struggle to lead it because we're equal, we're the same. My organization and I are the same. So there would be things that my organization would go through that I wouldn't be able to help it or lead it effectively on. If my effectiveness is slightly higher, in other words, I'm a level 4 leader and my organization is a 3, I would potentially be able to lead that organization. But if I was potentially a good leader, it would mean that my effectiveness would constantly go up, as would the effectiveness of the organization. It would follow me. Ideally, that is what should happen. You should grow as a leader, your organization should grow. However, it does happen that the roles are inverted. Your organization is at a higher level than you are as a leader, and therefore there are some consequences that will come from that. One is the organization may have to readjust or fall in order to become lower than you. So this might come in the form of failure. This might come in the form of conflicts that destroy elements of the fabric of the organization. Some of the culture might fail, but things would have to fail in order for that organization to come down. Or ideally, I would have to leave the organization and they would have to find a leader that was able to operate at a higher level. So when I talk about consequences, that's what I mean. At a personal level, if I found myself, in a position or in a space where I have to operate at a higher level of effectiveness and I fail, most likely I will fail to lead in that position or in that role, and most likely I will effectively lose or be ineffective and fail at doing that job. There are consequences for that. If it is a corporation, you'll potentially lose your job, or you'll have to move jobs and find another job. Not everybody gets fired for being a poor leader. Some leaders are picked up by other organizations who then discover that they're not as good as they thought those leaders might have been. So anyway, so that's the third element I want to talk about, consequences. The fourth element is the laws are the foundation of leadership. I think this for me is a very important point to make. When you look at these laws of leadership, I think if you are me and you were starting out at that point trying to figure yourself out, trying to come up with a philosophy, then this is a good place to be. You needed to have some kind of foundation. And I learned very quickly at the beginning of my career how important the law of leadership of the lead was, because it helped me realize and learn from the failures of other leaders. It also helped me realize and learn from the successes of other leaders. So I knew what to copy and what not to copy. The law of influence, I knew effectively what elements of my character, of my being, I needed to grow very quickly, because those elements were not as good or needed to be better in order for me to be an effective leader. So when you take all of those, especially the first category, the ones I talked about, laws that form the character of the character of leadership, in those laws, I learned how to show up as a leader, and I learned how to identify good leaders. And in a role like mine in human resources, it's absolutely important that you are able to help, particularly support the leader of the organization if you are in a situation where their leadership is being tested and they need to be supported very quickly. So I found myself in those situations of conflict, either in the executive team or in terms of how they dealt with employees or how they led in difficult situations. So that for me is an important set of points to highlight about this. I think the second set of points I want to make. So the first one was, what's this book all about, and the second one is around application. And there are two things I want to point out to you. So number one, you need to set aside time for growth. So you'll have heard, if you watched my last video, you'll have heard me say this about the 15 laws of growth. You need to set aside time for growth. If you do not set aside time for growth, you cannot therefore learn these laws. They become difficult for you to learn. You need to, I think, select some activities in advance that you're going to sort of work through. Experimentation. I'm such a huge believer in experimentation. You will learn by obviously gathering knowledge, watching videos such as this one, having conversations, but you'll get better by actually doing. So by slowly experimenting and improving your ability to get a sense, to become intuitive, as it were, with these issues, it's important that you constantly set activities in advance and you do that. So I think it's absolutely important for you to do that. So the first one, as I said, the first element was what's this book about? Second bit is about application. And in this third set of comments I want to make is around rating yourself. And there's actually, and I marked this in my book. This is under the law of influence. And in the law of influence, it starts here by saying leadership is, the true measure of leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. Margaret Thatcher, the former British Prime Minister, observed, and I didn't pick this because I'm in the UK. It just so happened, by the way. So I'll read that again. Margaret Thatcher, the former British Prime Minister, observed, being in power is like being a lady. If you have to tell people you are, you aren't. If you watch the dynamics that occur between people in just about every aspect of life, you will see some people leading and others following. And you'll notice that position and title often have little to do with who really is in charge. And then it goes on to list a number of things. Character. Who are you as a leader? It says, true leadership always begins with the inner person. That's why someone like Billy Graham is able to draw more and more followers to him as time goes by. People can sense the depth of his character. Right? By the way, if you've read the book, then you know who Billy Graham is. But for purposes of this point, is true leadership always begins with the inner person. So he describes character, it describes relationships, describes knowledge, intuition, experience, past success, and then ability. So answering the questions, what can they do, what they've done, where they've been, what they feel, what they know, and who they are. So this is a very, very big part, I think, for me in terms of understanding or yourself. You need to go through this almost with a fine-tooth comb, asking the same questions of yourself. Who are you? What do I know? Who do I know? What do I feel? Where have I been? What have I done? What can I do? Because by understanding yourself in that way, you have a better understanding of yourself as a leader and what elements you need to improve. So that's very, very important, I think, as a point to make, that you learn a lot from these laws. And I just wanted to make that point very clear. Now, coming up to my last point, so to speak, is I've put 3 questions I think you should constantly ask yourself. Number 1 is, what are you scoring low on? So rate yourself. So we've talked about the things that you need to rate yourself, and here we're saying, what are you scoring yourself in, or what are you scoring low in, rather, right? You need a plan to improve the areas that you're not scoring highly on. You need people to help you get past that, and you need to prioritize. There are 21 laws. It's going to be very difficult for you to go and try and learn all the laws at one go, right? This is years in the making. I think it's been almost a decade for me, right? And then the second point is, what are you scoring moderately on? What should you absolutely prioritize? In some of these places, you're going to have to just keep going the way you are. Then the third question, what are you scoring highly on? Right? Understand why you do well, right? It's always important to understand the method behind your success. So understand why you're doing well in those areas. Understand how you can leverage your strengths. Because if you don't know how you're successful, then you're going to struggle with repeating success because it's accidental. So absolutely important for you to do that. I think, very important for you to understand. So if you go back to what I said, there are some laws here, 21 of them. These 21 laws cover the character of leadership, how leadership is about connecting with people, the picture of success for leadership. So those 3 categories. And then I've gone through how important these laws are, how you can apply them, how you can rate yourself. And I've come now to say, you need to then do a bit of analysis at the end and ask yourself, what are you scoring low on? What are you scoring moderately on? What are you scoring high on? And under each one of these elements, you need to go in and have some activities, some actions for you to do that. So in summary, leadership for me is, I approach it from a systems thinking perspective. In other words, I genuinely believe there are inputs, I genuinely believe there are processes, I genuinely believe there are outputs. I think the input for me is character. The character of a leader is a huge part of what goes into who they become and how successful they are. How they connect with people, I think, makes up a huge part of the processes. What are the processes that make leadership possible, that make the result possible? So it's going to be about connecting with people. And I think the last set of laws that relates to the success or the legacy, so to speak, around that, or what I call the picture of success earlier, that will come as output. So there are 5 laws on character, 9 laws on connecting with people, and 7 laws about the picture of success itself. So let's close. Absolutely important. I think what stood out for me. So these are my last questions that I normally ask myself at the end of each video. So what stood out for me? So number 1, influence, nothing more, nothing less. I think it's self-explanatory. If you're not influencing as a leader, if you're not growing as a leader, then you potentially have a good place to start to improve yourself. So start there. Influence, nothing more, nothing less. Second question, did this book get me thinking about something? Of course it did. It got me thinking about how has my influence grown over the years. And I started looking at my family, I started looking at my work, I started looking at there are various areas that I've started wondering, how has my influence grown? The third question, I like saying the last when I see 3. The third question is, what did not work for me? It's a lot of laws. I've had roughly 10 years to go over the laws. And with a fine-tooth comb, improving myself as I go. And I think I still need another 10 years to keep working on this. As I have grown, some of these laws have changed in terms of their impact. So very important for me is to be clear that this is a lot of stuff. It's not going to be something that you just go and do, which goes to my idea for action, which is the 4th point here. This isn't a book that you're going to read cover to cover, put it away. This is a book, if you look at mine, it's actually torn a little bit. It's got some ears, it's got markers everywhere, it's drawn inside it, because this is a reference book. From time to time when I'm dealing with an issue, I'll go back, I'll read the book, I'll find inspiration, I'll go to my situation and I'll work on it. So absolutely important for you to do that. We come to the scoring. 3 scores to put out. First one is readability. Was this an easy read? I say it was, with a few explanations that would have been better. So I'll give it 4 stars out of 5. The second one is the quality of ideas. I thought some of those ideas were good, and therefore I'll give it 5 stars. Would I recommend this book? Why is it on this video? Yes, I would. 5 stars. So that's it. Thank you very much for joining me. As I said, I'm looking to talk to my ex-boss, who we've become very good friends, and hopefully he agrees to do a video with me. If he does, then you'll see it on this channel very soon. So like and subscribe, share this with other people, and do tell me in the comments if you found this very helpful. Other than that, thank you very much and goodbye. See you next time.